Hi, welcome to Roasted Road, where we explore, learn, and brew all things coffee. Today on our coffee journey, we're going to be looking at an interesting concept and topic, which is extraction. Essentially, that's what we're going to be talking about. We are going to be using this bean here. This is a Columbian Nitro fermentation process. So what that means is that it's an anaerobic process to extract the cherry seed from the coffee cherry. And it's deprived in oxygen, pumped in with some nitrogen, and what that does is it really highlights the fruity floral notes of the coffee cherry. It's going to sort of dampen the traditional Colombian profile, so to speak, and then it's going to highlight again, like I said, the fruit and the acidity. But different extraction methods with the same bean are going to give us actually different profiles. So we will talk about that as we are extracting. Also, taking a look at the beans. Okay, oh, that does sound great. So we do have some really nice beans here. These look wonderful. Okay, oh, that smells good. Ah, beautiful. It's a Colombian, it's rich and it's deep, but it's also very fruity on the top. So depending on what kind of flavor profile you're looking for, you can find an extraction method that best suits your taste. Okay, so here I just wanted to show you the beans that we're using. Very beautiful. Okay, so the methods of extraction that we're going to be looking at today, we're going to be using this grinder, the 1Z Presso K Ultra. Then we're also going to be using an Oxo Rapid Brewer. Here's one brand new one in the box. We're also going to be using an Aero Press. Then we're going to finish off with an espresso extraction. Okay, we're all set to do some brewing now. And just so you're aware, on the 1Z Presso hand grinder, we went from 3.9 all the way down to 2.5. So for the first extraction, we're going to be at 3.9 grind. Then we go down to a 3.5. Then I did a 3.2 for the Aero Press, and then a 2.5 for the espresso. So lining up the numbers with what the dot there. Okay, here we are for our first extraction. We have 22 grams of bean in here. Use a 3.9 setting on this grinder. I'm going to pour 80 grams of water in. We're going to saturate it, and then we're just going to pump hard. It's going to be a quick extraction. Here we go. There, 80 grams of water. All right, 82. We overshot just a little bit. That's fine. Part of the process. As you can see, there's nothing coming through yet. I mean, I did pack it down as well. So let's go ahead and saturate that with just a little bit of a pump. There's nothing dripping over here, so not quite yet. All right. Okay, I feel it's saturated. Now we just pump real hard and fast. Remember, the bitters are what comes out last. So, ooh, look at that. That's some foam. So that's probably pretty bitter. That's all right. Here we go. Okay, so this is concentrated. All right, so let's smell it. You can smell the acidity. You can smell the fruit in it because it was a quick extraction. We didn't really get to that second level of extraction. So when we're extracting, the first thing that comes out is the fruit and the acidity. The second is going to be the deeper notes, which is the caramel and the chocolate. And then lastly, it's some of those bitter notes, which is okay for a balanced cup. You don't want it to be too much in one way, like life. You want some balance. All right, so let's see here. I'll taste the concentrate. Whew. Okay. That is definitely acidic. It's not awful, but it is. It's not pleasurable either. You don't want to sit here and be like, "Oh, it's so good." No, It's not that. All right, so let's water this down, or dilute it to be a little more precise, or bypass. Okay, so let's figure out what we have in here first. Let's go ahead and take this cup. Let's reset it. All right, so we'll do 1 to 2. Let's throw, that's about 10, 15, 17, 20 grams. All right, let's throw in 40 grams for our 1 to 2 extraction. So we're gonna have a total of 60. Here we go. Okay, there. Now putting in the water and doing a little dilution, what that's helping is it's gonna balance it out. So the total dissolved solubles in this, the TDS, total dissolved solubles, is high because it's a concentrate. So the percentage of extraction is going to be high as well. Overall, you kind of want to get a 17 to 20% extraction. That's a really good place to be. But again, this is very acidic. So it's going to mellow out the acidity. Oh, I should have brought a spoon. It's going to mellow out the acidity by putting it in water. It's going to kind of balance out the cup. It's going to make the body a little thinner, which is great because, I mean, this is a pretty thick body right now. Oh man, you can see it's sticking to the sides. So if you're going to be experimenting like this, you definitely want to use some dilution for this type of process. Now, the flavor profile, as I was saying, it actually smells really delicious. Let's take a sip. It's a big fruit bomb, and in a good way. Bomb isn't bad in this term. If you like a nice fruit-forward flavor, this type of process that we just used, the extraction method, is going to give you a lot of fruit, okay? Now, the body is actually quite pleasant. I'm not going to say if it tastes thin. It tasted thinner earlier when I was experimenting with this method. Let's see if we throw a few more grams of water in, how that will affect the body. I'm at about 32. We're at 20. Okay, we're at 32 right now. Let's just go up to 45. All right, that's 48. We'll do an even number. There we go, 50. Okay, so we diluted it a little bit more. You can even see the color is getting a little lighter. Okay, now that's really good. So that has mellowed out the acidity. So even if you weren't doing what I did and purposely creating a quick extraction, sort of a concentrate, if you will, even if you weren't doing that, say you brewed a cup of coffee and you're thinking, man, it tastes a little sour, it's got a lot of acidity, it doesn't taste very balanced, it's very viscous, it's on the palate, you can always add some water. That would be great. That is going to not change the extraction. I mean, there's still a lot of, the extraction that just happens when you, whatever comes out through the extraction, it's not going to change what's been extracted, but it will change that total dissolved soluble level. So when your TDS is, say, 2 and you put in more water, you bring that TDS down to 1. That's what makes it a little brighter, a little clearer, a little less pronounced on the acidity, really. It's like using an EQ, okay? Instead of all the sound just being really close together, you add some water and it's going to separate the sound a little bit clearer. You can hear each instrument, you can taste each flavor. Okay. But again, very acidic, very fruit forward, nice big fruit bomb. Very delicious. The next recipe on the Oxo, I actually preferred more earlier in my experimenting. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. And what that's going to be is I do use the Aero Press filters. I put them inside the Oxo brewer and I do a paper sandwich. This time we're going to use 22 grams of, we're going to use 24. We're going to use 24 grams of ground beans. We're going to put them in the Oxo brewer and, well, let me just set it up and you'll see what happens. Okay, here we go. Now we have 22 grams of ground beans in there. We used our 1Z Presso grinder, and what I did was I set this to 3.5. I brought it down a little bit to make it more, I brought the setting down to make it more fine, because we went from 24 to 22, and we're going to use more water. It's going to be a longer extraction method. I need a timer. I'm using my phone to record, so that will be interesting. All right, first we're putting in 220 grams of water with the grind. 210. And come on. Oh, there we go. 220 on the dot. Nice, nice. Now, I know some other YouTubers, they like to tap it, but I don't want to tap it because I don't want to disturb the puck. I could be wrong, but my concern in this would be channeling or an uneven extraction. So if I tap it and a certain part starts to get more exposed to the water than another part, one area of the puck can get over extracted, the other area of the puck can get under extracted, and that is not a good cup of coffee. So first we're going to saturate it just with a little pump. Oh, I can feel the pressure pretty good already. Okay, now it's coming through on the bottom. Something about this side just never really comes through first. All right, I'm feeling very confident that we have a full saturated full saturated puck there. Alexa, set a timer for 1:15, for 1 minute and 15 seconds. Okay, so while we're waiting for the minute and 15 seconds to go through, what we're doing is we're saturating the puck, we're letting the water get in there, and it's going to be able to pull out more of the soluble material from the bean, the coffee bean. So we ground the coffee bean up. We went a little more fine for a little more extraction because the first one was a quick extraction. So what we ended up with was a high acidic fruit bomb. This is the attempt to pull out more of those middle flavors and tones, those flavor notes that are going to be the caramels, the chocolates, those deeper notes. I do like to think of music a lot. So, when you have a symphony, you got the soprano notes on the top, that would be your acidic, your fruit flavors. You have the chocolate and caramel notes on the bottom, those are the bassier, so sopranos on top, bass notes on the bottom, and oh, look at that. Yeah, very dark. So what happens is, with a nice well-balanced cup, you're going to take a sip, you're going to get that nice acidic fruit flavor that on the top, and then those caramel, chocolate, deeper notes are going to settle in. Give me 1 second. Alexa, stop. That's 1 minute and 15 seconds. Now we're going to go ahead and start pushing through. Okay, so we got a nice saturation. These grounds are ready for extraction, and it's going to be easier to extract the flavors from the grounds because they've already been saturated. Where before we saturated them, but we didn't wait. We just got it saturated and then we pumped right through. So this we actually waited for a while, let more of the water get it absorbed so we can then pull out more of the soluble material. Okay. Again, we're still not sure. It's still kind of up for debate. Do we push through the hiss? Do we not push through the hiss? I think it's kind of an opinion, or not, I shouldn't say an opinion, a preference. What I'm thinking is based on extraction theory, where this final step of extraction is going to be more of those bitter flavor notes. That's where I want to kind of stop and not push through to avoid over extraction, a lot of bitterness. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. Nice, deep, rich color. Okay. Very nice, rich, and deep color. Okay, let's smell it. I think I've had so much coffee today, my nose is a little exhausted. Okay. Oh, that's good. Let's also taste it with a little bit of extraction. We're going to taste it a little bit more. So now this is a lot more water that we use, 220 grams. So I'm wondering how much kind of came out. I should have measured it, and I don't have a TDS tool right now, and I will be getting a TDS tool and total dissolved soluble tool for a measurement. It's called a refractometer. I will be getting a refractometer. I think I might go with dye fluid, which would pair with the scale nicely, so we can get a measurement of the amount of brew that we receive. So if we use 220, let's talk about this real quick. If we use 220 grams of water for extraction, known as the extraction volume, and then we push it through, and let's say we get 200 out of here. Let's say we use a refractometer to measure the percentage, the TDS, and say the TDS is 1.4%, or was it? I was doing some math earlier. I'll have to look at the math, but again, 200, and if the total dissolved solubles is something like 3.4, you do the calculation and you end up with like a 20% extraction, and you want to be somewhere between 18 and 22, 23% extraction, maybe up to 24. A lot of people like that 18 to 20% range for the extraction. So this is interesting because it is very good. It's not astringent, so it's not over extracted, but it does leave a bit of bitterness lingering on the tongue. The body of this, I wouldn't call it thin, but I wouldn't say it's viscous or thick, or certainly not syrupy, right? It's not an espresso shot. All right, so let's go ahead and dilute this and see what happens to the flavor. Ooh, nice, 30 grams on the dot. I'm gonna do a 2-to-1. We're gonna add 60 grams because we're at 30 grams of brew. We're gonna add 2-to-1, so 60 grams of water, giving us a total of 90 grams. 82 and 90. All right, perfect. Oh, 91. Overshot just a little bit. So I hope all this makes sense. I think sometimes guys on YouTube can talk a little too quickly, and I found myself kind of rewinding it or slowing the pace down. I love dilution. Or what I really love is changing the TDS. So if the TDS is a 2, you add some water, it goes to 1. It's just, you know, a concentrate. So high TDS, it's very concentrated. Low TDS, it's less concentrated. So when you, again, add some water to sort of bypass or make it a little less concentrated, you get a nice, more balanced cup. Wow. So this is a really great recipe. I highly recommend it. Again, it was 22 grams. I ground at 3.2. I'm forgetting now. 3.5. I did the Aero Press at 3.2. And then, because they're both 22 grams, the Aero Press and this recipe, the 220 grams of water. Yeah, all right, very good. Let's move on to the next. Again, what we're exploring here is how different extraction methods can produce different flavors. By the way, this is not a fruit bomb at all. Do I still taste the acidity? Yeah, but sort of like a light soprano on the top. Think of, I don't know, like the Sugar Plum Dance. Sugar Plum Fairies from the Nutcracker. You know, it's a very light, kind of high melody. That's how I would sort of compare this. Okay, so in my journey, in my experimenting, I wanted something that would really bring out this Colombian natural flavor. I wanted something that would be deeper and richer. So I started thinking, how can I get that? Maybe with something that's just a little more immersed. So I thought, yeah, let's use an Aero Press. It is different than the Oxo Rapid Brewer, which it is different than the Oxo Rapid Brewer. I know so many people out there are saying, oh, I got my Oxo Rapid Brewer. I don't even touch my Aero Press anymore. One's a screwdriver, one's a hammer. I think they're two totally different tools. Do they both extract coffee? Yeah. But, you know, if you go around with a hammer all the time, everything's going to look like a nail. So what I'm saying is, as a side note, they're both very useful tools, and I don't think this is going anywhere. It's been around for decades. It's going to be around for decades to come. It might go away for a little bit, but what's that saying? I change by not changing. All right. Let's stop gabbing here, right? I'm just talking too much. All right, let's hear. We're going to add 220 grams of water to this as well. So what this is kind of like is that other one that I just did with 220 grams, and they're both 22 grams of water. 220 grams of water. But the difference is this, the coarseness. I went finer on this Aero Press one because I want a better extraction. I want more TDS, or shall I say, not, more TDS, but more of a body with it. Okay. I want deeper notes. 1, 2, hold on, this is really stuck in there. Okay, just one more gentle swirl. Okay, there we go. Alexa, set a timer for 1 minute and 30 seconds. Yes, we are letting this. Okay, we are letting this hit for 1 minute and 30 seconds. I am using the Aero Press filter, but I'm also using my iCape espresso metal filter as well, which oh boy, I kind of need some water to. Let's just do this. Don't do this at home, kids. There we go. The reason I did that is so it doesn't fall off when I flip it upside down. It just kind of stays on a little bit better. There we go. And because I put that metal screen in there, come on. It's a little, there we go. It's a tight fit just with the paper filter, let alone putting a metal screen in there. So you really got to crank it. You don't get over as much, but it stays on. So again, I wanted a nicer, a deeper extraction. Oh, hey, by the way, we are using 90-degree water. I messed around with the temperature earlier because water will make a difference in the extraction as well. So depending on how much we're pulling out, because if the water's hot and the molecules are more excited, then it's going to be able to pull more out. Okay. That is looking delicious. I can't wait There's our minute and 30. Alexa, turn off the timer. Okay. Let's see if this works. I'm worried this isn't big enough, but that's okay. We can just stop, and I have another cup right to the next side of me. Now, this push through is not necessarily fast, but it's not slow either. The recipe I used earlier was supposed to be 30 seconds, but I thought 30 seconds was a little too quick. Earlier today, this was the preferred extraction method. It's almost hard to compare it to espresso, though. I really do enjoy the Americano. Something about that, I got to figure that one out. Why do I enjoy the Americano so much? I really do like full-bodied coffees. Some people out there may not. They like a lighter coffee, maybe even tea-like. I'm listening for the hiss. I want to stop. Okay, I want to stop there. I don't even want to wait till I hear the hiss. And the reason I'm stopping a little early is why? That's right, because bitterness comes out in the end of the extraction. Okay, got a total mess going on here. Oh, yeah. Now that is the deepest aroma so far. I mean, with the immersion, with the agitation. Oh, man. I mean, look at that. That is a nice deep color. Now, again, this is a Columbian Nitro Fermentation. That nitro fermentation, that anaerobic process is going to just bring the sugars and the fruit-forward fruit bombness out. Even on the flavors, it says blueberry, watermelon, and honey. Now, that watermelon earlier on my extraction, earlier on that extraction, that very first one that we did, it just brought out that watermelon. And if I'm thinking about it, it's probably because earlier, I must say, if I recall correctly, I don't even think I waited that much for the saturation. It was a pretty quick, rapid, boom, boom, boom. You know, water in, water out. Short contact exposure. I wonder if it's because I'm talking about watermelon that I'm tasting it now. Okay. Again, we like dilution, okay? I want it to be full-bodied, but I want it to be clear, clean. If I can get the perfect cup, it's going to have a body that is not light, but not heavy. And that's why I like espresso. It's got that flavor that has all those deep notes in it, but it also has that lightness that separates those notes. So I got one more cup here. All right. Let's go ahead and see how this changes. Let's throw a little bit in here. 38. And come on. There we go. 40, 41. All right. You could smell the caramel and the chocolate notes. Maybe you would interpret them different, but as far as those deep notes inside this particular type of extraction with the Aero Press, it kind of brings back its original Columbian flavor. Again, that fermentation process totally changed the flavor profile of this bean, which is amazing. I mean, how that can occur just from the way that we extract, the method that we use to extract the cherry from the coffee cherry. All right, so I already did this. Let's go ahead and stir this up real quick. What did I do for this? I didn't even add water yet. All right. So 40 grams of the Aero Press brew. We're gonna do a 2-to-1, so what's that? 80 more grams for a total of 120. Just need a few more. Okay. And 18, 19, 20. Oh, overshot, 22. 122 altogether. Okay. This is gonna be delicious, I can just tell. Excuse me. Yeah, it did bring out the thinner body. It spreads out those notes a little bit more using the EQ instead of everything just being pushed together. It's a little hot. Okay, I think that's a little too thin for me, to be honest, after what we just did, it being a 2-to-1 ratio on this one. I think some of you out there would enjoy this very much. I could even enjoy this. This would be more on a sort of cool spring or fall sunset, chilling, sort of, you know, a little warmer outside, but we are in the middle of winter, or kind of in the middle of winter here in Illinois. What I want to do is I want to do a 1-to-1 instead of a 2-to-1, less than a 2-to-1, which is what I really wanted. So it's definitely in the right direction. So again, what we're talking about today is we're talking about how you can use the same bean and get different flavor profiles from the same bean. So if somebody says they don't like a certain bean or a certain type of coffee, you know, maybe it's the extraction method that was used when they tried it. Maybe that's what they don't like, because I think anybody can dial in the right cup of coffee for themselves, no matter what bean you're using. Now, of course, people are going to have preferred beans and the preferred extraction methods, but again, we have to experiment. So every brew is another mile on our roasted road. Because we're watching Roasted Road, right? Okay. Remember, explore, learn, and brew together.